Broadcasting live from the mountains of Montana, get ready for an hour of pure, unapologetic conservative talk radio. Liberals beware, because this is the Wise Conservative Show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wise Conservative Show. I'm your host, Connor Wise. So, something happened this past week that really should be in every single headline. It should be not just on Fox News and not just on a few conservative talk shows out there. At the school shooting that happened in Maryland this past week, it was stopped by an armed guard. And so I was just browsing through CNN to confirm my suspicions. And sure enough, there's nothing on it. I looked at MSNBC's site. I've looked at a lot of different areas. And none of these sites have anything saying, they don't say anything about what happened here. Folks, this is the sort of thing that proves that we don't need gun-free zones. This is the kind of thing that proves that we as Americans are more protected when we are armed, when we have protection ourselves, when we don't have to rely on someone who's 10, 15 minutes away after you call them. Folks, the school shooting at Maryland proves that guns are actually the option and the result that we need. They're the answer to the question that's been being asked for the past month or so. A question that's been asked for longer than that. How do we keep our children safe in schools? Now, you've heard people going on and on this debate. You've heard people on the left saying, oh, in order to do this, we need to ban all guns from every citizen of the U.S. We need to raise the limit of purchasing any gun to 21. You know, all these arguments that the left has been using. Now, of course, the right saying, there's a couple different options that people on the right have been saying. Armed teachers, put at least one armed guard on every campus, stuff like that. And see, the difference between the two sides is on the left, they have fear-mongering and they have moral arguments. They have emotional arguments. On the right, we're using reality and we're using facts in this debate. You see, because this deputy who stopped the school shooter just yesterday, it shows that if attackers are met with force, if there's at least one armed guard in every single school across America, that those shooters are going to be stopped, that our children are going to be protected, and an event where 17 children could die could be turned into no one injured or one or two people injured, including the gunman. So the SRO that actually stopped this attack, he's been interviewing on different areas, especially on Fox News. And he's been advocating for seeing guns at schools. He's been advocating for more armed guards, more SROs at schools. He said that he would like to see guns in the schools in the hands of the right person. We're calling for an SRO, at least one in every school in the country. Folks, when you have someone there, it sends a clear message to any would-be attacker. It sends a clear message that if you're going to bring some violence to the school, that you're going to be met with force, that you're going to be met with a counterattack, that you're going to be stopped. When someone's properly trained and they know how to handle the situation with the firearm, you're not going to be able to do anything. And this event proves that, folks. It proves it. This SRO pursued the shooter, he engaged him, and he fired a single round. And the shooter was stopped. A single round. It wasn't like in Florida where we had the guard on campus hide and run away from the event, where we had 3 other deputies hiding behind their cars, where we had people not going into the school, not saving children. It wasn't like that. Because it actually had someone who wanted to help. It had someone who was properly trained. The Broward County Sheriff's Department is not well trained, and and they don't have very many people who want to help in these situations. And that's why it didn't work. But when you have people who are properly trained, who want to help, who actually know that an armed guard is the only option, they're going to help, folks. It's just common sense. Now, I know I've talked about different gun control topics for, 3 weeks now? But I did want to present you with this stuff because I don't know whether you've seen it or not. It's not being reported in too many places. I got notifications that there was a shooter at the school from every single news agency on my phone. But the only news agency that said that the man had been stopped by an armed guard was Fox News. Because all the other ones have a liberal agenda, all the other ones want to push for gun control. All the other ones don't want to undermine their beautiful agenda that they've been pushing with 15-year-olds for the past month. Like they did with the walkout, where we know and we have proven that there were kindergarten teachers forcing their kindergartners to go out and protest. This anti-gun agenda has gone very far. It's gone past the realm of logic. I understand why after a tragedy, some people are going to jump to banning the weapon that was used. They're going to jump to maybe even raising the limit to when you can buy that weapon. I actually understand that. But when you go to the extent to try to achieve that by using children as pawns, by taking kindergartners, by taking 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds, middle schoolers, high schoolers, and using them as political pawns, that's not okay, and that's not logical, that's not debating the issue anymore. That's not helping the situation. What does help the situation is looking at events like this, looking at events where there was an armed guard and it stopped it, and realizing that that's what we need to do in the majority, if not all, of our schools. And folks, there's other instances of this. There was an officer assigned to Granite Hills High School, which is outside of San Diego. This was a few years back. So there was a school shooter on campus. This armed officer that's on campus fired 5 shots and struck the gunman in the jaw and the buttocks. Jason Hoffman, who was the 18-year-old thwarted in the attack, he left 5 wounded, but he didn't kill anyone. Folks, this is another time when having an armed guard stopped an attack, where having an armed guard stopped people from being killed. Well, how we solve this issue isn't by attacking the NRA. How we solve this issue isn't by trying to ban guns from every law-abiding citizen. How we solve this issue isn't by making more gun-free zones in America. How we solve this issue is by actually protecting our children with armed guards. How we protect this is fighting fire with fire. If there's a criminal with a firearm, they're not going to lay down their arms because they know that no one else has a gun. That's not how it works, even though Dianne Feinstein seems to think so. But they're going to continue to keep saying that. They're going to continue to keep saying that guns are the problem, that it's not the people behind the guns. I saw signs from the walkout, a ton of them. And it was also people who are protesting outside the White House day after day. And their signs actually read, "People aren't the problem, guns are." I saw a sign that read that. Folks, they're delusional, they're illogical, they're out of reality. They have no facts for their side, they have no basis in reality for any of their arguments. And they can't seem to understand that an inanimate object cannot kill someone without some other force acting on it. They can't seem to understand that it's the person that has the messed up background, that has the messed up mind, and for some reason wants to kill other people. It's not the gun's fault, folks. It's not the gun that's doing the shooting. It's the person that's shooting the gun. So I believe that if we do arm at least one guard, at least one that's well-trained at every high school, middle school, elementary school, yeah, that's a lot of guards. But folks, that'll protect them. That'll keep them safe. And it'll solve this issue for the most part. It's a solution that the left doesn't want to hear, but it's a solution that is real, that is true, that is based in reality. All right, folks. So we have another issue of the news here. Of course, they're pushing agendas and all that. We already know that. But then also, ABC News just reported that former FBI Deputy Director McCabe had overseen the investigation into whether Sessions, quote, lacked candor when he testified before Congress about contacts with Russian operatives during the 2016 presidential campaign. So now Jeff Sessions' attorney is responding to this news article saying, quote, the special counsel's office has informed me that after interviewing the Attorney General and conducting additional investigation, the Attorney General is not under investigation for false statements or perjury in his confirmation hearing testimony and related written submissions to Congress. Now, that was his attorney, Chuck Cooper. Folks, the news is still reporting, though, especially ABC News and other agencies have reported as well, that Jeff Sessions is under investigation for those things. ABC News reported that lawmakers from both parties were told that Sessions was being investigated during a closed-door briefing with McCabe and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein last year. Sources close to Sessions said that the Attorney General had no idea that he may have been under investigation when he fired McCabe. But what they're doing here, so you remember how when President Trump fired Comey, everyone was talking about obstruction of justice because Trump was under investigation? That's what they're trying to do here, folks. They're trying to get another instance where they're saying that someone in this administration is obstructing justice, is interfering with investigations. That's what they're trying to do. And it's not true. It's not even, there's no truth in it whatsoever. But I did want to talk, besides just this point, just besides the fact that the news is trying to say something that isn't even remotely true. We've seen that before, folks. But I wanted to touch on the actual firing of McCabe. So it came out the day of his firing that he was keeping memos on President Trump, just like Comey did. And it really brought up a lot of questions. Because, folks, do you remember any of these people keeping memos on our previous president? No, because they didn't. Folks, the FBI, the judicial system, the executive branch, and all of our investigative bureaus, all of that, they're supposed to be unbiased. They're supposed to be unpolitical. They're not supposed to have partisan beliefs. They're not supposed to act on partisan beliefs. But what we're seeing here is that members of the FBI, high up members, the director, and the deputy director, we see these people who are high up acting on partisan beliefs, acting that where they hate our current president because they wanted Hillary Clinton to win. Folks, that's not how the FBI is supposed to work. That's not how it's supposed to work at all. What they're supposed to do is look at issues and not look at the politics behind it. They're supposed to investigate the facts and recommend charges accordingly. But that's not what they're doing, folks. What they're doing is they're going through these partisan beliefs. They're looking at those that they hate politically, and they're trying to tear them down. They're looking at the people that they disagree with politically, and they're trying to use their power and influence as members of the FBI, as former members now of the FBI, to tear them down, to cause them to seem like unfitting members of the government. They're trying to use their position, their power, their influence to take down their political opponents. Kind of sounds like the Democrats, doesn't it, folks? We see them all the time acting like that. And now, of course, they've influenced the entire FBI at the same time. Or at least those in the higher up positions. It's not okay. It's an issue, folks. It's one that needs to be talked about more. But we don't see the media at all reporting on this. Why? Because the media is biased. The media is following their own agenda. And they're not getting the facts to you. Folks, it's a mistake when the media started to go towards their own agenda and not just facts. Because now the American people don't know what's true. They don't know what's actually happening. And they don't know that we have so many corrupt members of the FBI. And that's why they're being fired. Because they're very corrupt. But we have people who are angry at the Trump administration for firing McCabe, who are angry at the Trump administration for firing Comey. Even though both of them were extremely corrupt, both of them didn't follow what they were supposed to do. But because of the liberal biased media, they're not getting the truth, they're not getting the facts, and they don't know what's happening. All right, I'm going to take a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Wise Conservative Show. Hey everybody, Connor Wise here with an exclusive sneak peek of the Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. With universal health care, which is essentially the next step beyond Obamacare, this is where Democrats want to take the country. This is where the left wants us to go. With universal health care, now there's no insurance companies, no one competing whatsoever, and the government controls it all.
Calling all young conservatives. Have you ever wanted to write for an online publication? What about host your own conservative radio program? Now you can, thanks to youthrevolt.org. Youth Revolt is a conservative media network for young people, the goal of which is to educate our fellow Americans, and also to expose the left-wing indoctrination that goes on in classrooms across the country. Become part of a team that is dedicated to taking the country back, one radio program or opinion column at a time. If you're interested, go to youthrevolt.org and click on Join Us on the top of the page. Fill out our brief questionnaire, and one of our representatives will be in touch with you in no time at all. The time to reclaim our future is now. Be a part of something that's bigger than yourself, and join the movement today. Youth Revolt. Speak without fear. My friends, I'm going to be blunt with you. There are a lot of frauds out there today. People who claim to be conservatives and yet, in one way or another, believe that more government is the solution to our problems. That's not what conservatism is about, and even more than that, that's not what our Constitution is about. I'm Jason Veely, a recent college grad who has the guts to say what needs to be said without pulling any punches. On my radio show, you can expect 100% pure conservatism every single weeknight at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Join me as we discuss history, liberty, and conservative philosophy in a style that is just as entertaining as it is educational. Who says we can't have fun tearing down the liberal establishment? Tune in to the Jason Veely program live every weeknight at 7 o'clock on youthrevolt.org. I'll see you out on the battlefield.
America is known for its expansive wilderness for all to explore, and for many, that exploration is an important hobby. This exploration is why the Survivalist was created. On this blog, you will find expansive information on all things wilderness, from what knife you should carry to what backpack gives you the best bang for your buck. This group of 4 writers has created a very diversified and useful site, which I personally recommend. This site has given me much knowledge on a variety of topics, and I urge you to check it out at the-survivalist.weebly.com. Once again, that is the-survivalist.weebly.com.
I was assuming that it meant coverage, but if he says that there's a small group of people who understood what it was, so I'm like, what is it? What is confetti?
It gets 2 scoops. You know, everyone around the table gets 1, and no word if there were sprinkles.
He paid $38 million, looks like $38 million in taxes.
Are you tired of listening to the snowflake liberal media report about ice cream scoops and typos instead of real facts? Well, at the Wise Conservative Show, we promise you that we will not report about Kofifi, but instead about the truth, instead about the facts about what's going on in our nation. Join us every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Wise Conservative Show for your dose of unapologetic conservative talk radio. The Wise Conservative Show, only on Youth Revolt. Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show. I'm your host, Connor Wise. You know, it's kind of crazy. We're already up to 99 episodes. Make sure you tune in next week for the 100th episode of the Wise Conservative Show. It's crazy how far the show has come, and I'd like to thank all of you who listen to the show for getting us here. But anyway, jumping right back into it. So we all heard, I'm sure, that President Trump congratulated Russian President Putin for his election win. Well, the media directly attacked him after that. We saw liberals and rhinos and CNN, MSNBC, all of those attacking President Trump for congratulating the Russian president. We saw CNN saying that he's supporting an evil dictator, that it makes sense because he's buddies with dictators like this. Or it makes sense because Trump is just as authoritarian, he's just as evil. You know, all of these different crazy things that they're accumulating just because President Trump thanked the Russian leader. Well, coming out today, President Trump is explaining why he congratulated Putin for his election win. He blasted the crazed media today over its coverage of his call. He tweeted out this afternoon, quote, "I called President Putin of Russia to congratulate him on his election victory. In past, Obama called him also. The fake news media is crazed because they want me to excoriate him. They are wrong. Getting along with Russia and others is a good thing, not a bad thing." Of course, that was days after criticism from basically every Democrat, and rhinos like John McCain came flying at him for his move to call and congratulate Putin. But, folks, Trump wasn't done. In a tweet a few minutes later, he went, quote, "They can help solve problems with North Korea, Syria, Ukraine, ISIS, Iran, and even the coming race arms." He continued, quote, "Bush tried to get along, but didn't have the smarts. Obama and Clinton tried, but didn't have the energy or the chemistry." Then he said in all caps, "Peace through strength." The president's call with Putin, of course, occurred early Tuesday morning when the two discussed a potential meeting in the, quote, "not too distant future." But the president's National Security Council apparently had warned him not to congratulate Putin. And that was first reported by the Washington Post late Tuesday. They prepared a memo for the president's post-election phone call with him, which warned him not to congratulate Putin in his election victory. It read in all caps, "Do not congratulate." Senior administration official told Fox News on Wednesday that it was likely Trump never saw the memo. And folks, even if he did see it, I believe that Trump probably would have congratulated Putin for his win. The memo was in the president's daily briefing book. Senior administration officials have been saying that it's likely the president did not read it before the call, which took place early in the morning from the residence. Folks, we have the media bombarding our president for this, and President Trump touched on it in his tweet there. But I want to read you guys something, and this is from the archives from President Obama's whitehouse.gov, the actual White House website. Now, this is titled Readout of the President's Call with President-elect Putin. It says, quote, President Obama called Russian President-elect and Prime Minister Putin to congratulate him on his recent victory in the Russian presidential election. President Obama highlighted achievements in U.S.-Russia relations of the past 3 years with President Medvedev, including cooperation on Afghanistan, the conclusion and ratification of the START agreement, Russia's recent invitation to join the World Trade Organization, and cooperation on Iran. And it goes on to talk about all the other things that they're going to do in the future, but what I wanted you guys to hear was right at the beginning. It was the very first sentence. President Obama called Russian President-elect and Prime Minister Putin to congratulate him on his recent victory. Folks, this is nothing new. Congratulating another world leader on their victory is not a new thing. World leaders, whether they agree with him politically or not, congratulated Obama when he was elected. They congratulated Bush when he was elected. They congratulated Clinton and Bush Sr. when they were elected. And yes, they congratulated Donald Trump when he was elected. When Putin was re-elected, Obama congratulated him. Bush congratulated him. And I'm sure Clinton did as well. Folks, it's not a new thing and it's not something to criticize. Now, the main focus, if you haven't noticed on this episode, is a bunch of different issues that all relate to one thing: the biased media. What we notice here is a complete double standard. We notice that in the past this was fine, and in fact it was encouraged for presidents to do. But now, because it's Donald Trump in the office, everything that happens has to be criticized. Everything that happens has to put America on the verge of war. And that's what they're saying. That's what they continue to do. Or whatever he does puts America's democracy, it puts America's freedom and liberty at risk. Because he's talking to Russia. Folks, even during the Cold War, we had a line directly to Moscow. We're not in a war with Russia right now. And in fact, doing so would worsen both of our positions in the world. Furthermore, congratulating a world leader does not signify that you agree with everything that they stand for. It does not signify that you think that they run their country perfectly, that they're going to run the country perfectly. What it does is shows that you have common courtesy, that you're a diplomat for the United States of America, and you're going to say congratulations. Every president does it. This is not something that should be yelled at, that should be criticized, that should be bombarded by the media and by Democrats and by rhinos. We didn't criticize Obama when he congratulated Putin. The media didn't bombard him. No one did. Not conservatives, not the media, no one. Folks, this is what I've pointed out in previous episodes and what I'm going to continue to point out. No matter what President Trump does, whether it's something that boosts the trade economy, which he's done, whether it's something that lowers unemployment rates, which he's done, or whether it's something that strengthens international relations with a number of nations, which he's done in the past. All of these things he's been bombarded for. All these things he's been criticized for. Because whatever he does, whether good or bad, the media will say that it's terrible. The media will say that it's going to hurt our nation. They don't take half a second to look at it and to wonder whether it's actually going to help. The second it happens, they're already saying that it's hurting our nation, that is not good. They are so solidified in their agenda against our president that they don't take half a second to even consider that anything he does could be good, or could just be commonplace occurrences, like congratulating Putin. It's not how the media should be acting. It's not how the media should be portraying the news. They shouldn't be portraying the fact that President Trump can't do anything right. It seems as if these people want our country to fail. They want it to be destroyed more than they want, or more than they will accept President Trump as being their president. They would rather see our entire nation be destroyed and the office of the presidency be destroyed than go 4 or possibly 8 years without who they like. And that's astounding, folks. It's astounding that they would do such a thing. And never in my life did I think I would see people so filled with hatred towards our president that they will use an entire media. They will use CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, all of them, to portray their agenda, their political agenda, and to directly attack every single thing that our president does. It's crazy, and it does not portray America as looking strong when we have our entire media industry attacking our president day in and day out. They're here to present facts and present the news. That does not involve opinions. It does not involve partisan opinions. It doesn't involve agendas. But they can't seem to understand that, folks. They can't seem to understand that maybe we shouldn't portray our president as someone who doesn't even know one thing about leading. Folks, so far, the majority of things that Trump has done have been to the benefit of America. The majority of things that's happened have led to very great results, which I'll touch on in a little bit. But did you notice something else about this entire story, folks? This was leaked to the news, the fact that President Trump did this. So now we see John Kelly being, quote, frustrated and deeply disappointed over the fact that these details were leaked from the White House. White House officials said that the president may not have seen the warning, of course, but they did not notify any news agencies themselves. So what that means is that there's someone within President Trump's inner circle that's leaking this. Senator Marco Rubio said, quote, "I don't like what he did, but I really hate that there's someone in his inner circle who wants to leak this stuff. If you don't like working for the president, you should resign your job." And I agree with that last part of that statement there. If you don't like working for the president, if you're still an Obama holdover, or you just genuinely don't like working for the president anymore, then don't work for him. Resign. Quit your job. Don't leak every minute detail that is talked about in the Oval Office. Because not only is that irresponsible and dishonest, it's also dangerous. We've seen national security issues been leaked to the news within the past year like the second after it's even said in the Oval Office. We see these news agencies recovering this information that they really shouldn't know right away, even stuff that could lead to a dangerous situation. Folks, people who are leaking it like this, it's generally Obama holdovers. And we saw earlier in Trump's presidency that all of the Obama holdovers in all the different agencies that Trump just physically can't replace because Democrats are slowing down all the nominations still in the Senate, all of them were actually leaking information to the press, and it was brought out, and a lot of them were fired because of it. So there's probably still someone in the Oval Office, in the White House, working somewhere that's doing this. That's leaking it to the dishonest and the very liberal media. They should resign. They should quit their post because they're not doing America any help whatsoever. I'm going to take one last quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Wise Conservative Show. Hey everybody, Connor Wise here with an exclusive sneak peek of the Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. What it means to be a conservative is very simple. It means that you want to protect freedoms and liberties. You want to protect the Constitution and limit the government. It's a very simple definition. It's a very simple cause to follow. And this is what a lot of people do kind of value conservatism as.
Ever wanted to learn the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in less than 10 minutes? Are you looking for the truth about the so-called gender wage gap? Well, my friends, I'll let you in on a little secret. Prager University is a source that I use all the time when preparing for my show, the Jason Veely Program. Dennis Prager and his team have put together a remarkable organization that seeks to explain and spread Americanism through the power of the internet. Their short yet extremely informative videos reach more than 100 million people per year, and they want to reach you as well. Go on YouTube and type in Prager University, or go to prageru.com for all of their latest content. That's Prager, the letter U.com. prageru.com.
Hey everybody, Connor Wise here with an exclusive sneak peek of the Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. With universal health care, which is essentially the next step beyond Obamacare, this is where Democrats want to take the country. This is where the left wants us to go. With universal health care, now there's no insurance companies, no one competing whatsoever, and the government controls it all. Have you ever wanted to stand up to your liberal professor? Have you ever wanted to help expand the conservative movement? Well, it sounds like you would be a perfect fit for Youth Revolt. Youth Revolt is a team of dedicated young conservatives fighting liberal indoctrination within our school system. If you're interested in being a part of this team by being a columnist or even hosting your own radio show, go ahead and click the Join Now tab at the top of youthrevolt.org. You'll be asked to answer a few questions, and a Youth Revolt team member will respond to you quickly. Be a part of something bigger than you. Be a part of Youth Revolt. Speak without fear.
If you got a business, that you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
Get out of here, you idiot. Sorry about that, folks. Jason Veely here, host of the Jason Veely Program. I'm a 22-year-old conservative who is fired up and ticked off at the direction the progressive left have taken this country. Join me every weeknight at 7 o'clock as we promote liberty, advance conservative principle, and work to restore the Constitution of the United States. I can get loud and I can get passionate. How can we afford not to when so much is on the line? Tune in to the Jason Veely program, live every weeknight at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on youthrevolt.org. I'll see you out on the battlefield.
I was assuming that it meant coverage, but if he says that there's a small group of people who understood what it was, so I'm like, what is it? What is confetti?
It gets 2 scoops. You know, everyone around the table gets 1, and no word if there were sprinkles.
He paid $38 million, looks like $38 million in taxes.
Are you tired of listening to the snowflake liberal media report about ice cream scoops and typos instead of real facts? Well, at the Wise Conservative Show, we promise you that we will not report about Kofifi, but instead about the truth. Instead, about the facts about what's going on in our nation. Join us every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Wise Conservative Show for your dose of unapologetic conservative talk radio. The Wise Conservative Show, only on Youth Revolt. Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show. Once again, I am your host, Connor Wise. Welcome back for this last segment of the show tonight. Just a few more minutes left. So last week I talked to you guys, I believe it was last week, about Hillary Clinton and her comments that she made in India. And of course we saw Democrats and Republicans criticizing her for it. The majority of the Democrats just distancing themselves from her and essentially telling her to shut up and stay out of the political arena because she's hurting their chances now. Well, folks, as we all know, Hillary Clinton does not take no for an answer for anything. She didn't realize after she lost her presidential campaign that people didn't want her as president, so she tried again. When that didn't work, she took to just giving speeches for money and making obscene comments as to why she lost the election. Well, those obscene comments still aren't working for her, but she hasn't tried anything new. And instead, she's doubling down on them now. She took to Facebook and doubled down on her smear of Americans who didn't vote for her in the previous election as racist and mindless. Of course, that's what she said previously. She also called them sexist. But she went and said, quote, "As much as I hate the possibility and hate saying it, it's not that crazy when you think about our ongoing struggle to reach gender balance, even within the same household." She continued with saying, quote, "I understand how some of what I said upset people and can be misinterpreted. I meant no disrespect to any individual or group." So, folks, she said that she was surprised that people misunderstood her and didn't understand that she was trying to be inclusive somehow. So basically what she's saying is that she's out of touch with reality. She's out of touch with the common voter. She's out of touch with the common person. She's saying from this, in her new Facebook post, that anyone who was upset is wrong and didn't understand her in her comments. That in and of itself is an attack on all those who disagree with her, which isn't just half of the nation anymore, folks. It's probably 3/4 to 80% of the nation who has criticized her for her comments. Folks, she doesn't know how to take a loss. She doesn't know how to take criticism. And when she does take criticism, she turns around and blames other people. But in an interview, there was a bigger trigger for Miss Clinton, and that was the idea of Ivanka Trump becoming president. So during an interview with a Dutch television station, the reporter asked apparently Ivanka Trump wants to be the first female president of the United States. And she asked Hillary Clinton how she felt about that. Well, Clinton's response, straight out, quote, "That's not going to happen." So it continued, of course. And Clinton basically said that no one wants Trumps. She said, quote, "We don't want any more inexperienced Trumps in the White House. I think that normally I would like to believe what you're saying, but I've also learned after these elections that things that we don't..." Oh, sorry. This is the interviewer now. I would like to believe what you're saying, but I've also learned after these elections that things we don't expect to happen oftentimes do happen. Then Clinton continued, quote, "Well, that's true, but fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me." And I think the American people have seen for themselves what happens when a reality TV candidate wins. Folks, we have seen what happens when someone who was previously a reality TV star wins the presidency. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen when every reality TV star wins the presidency if they do run. But we have seen what happens when this one does. And honestly, for the most part, it's good things. We've seen the Dow Jones Industrial Average rise about 31% over the past year. We've seen the total stock market wealth added since Trump first was inaugurated go up $5.5 trillion. Over the last year, 2.2 million jobs were added to our economy. And of course, the lowest unemployment rate in the history of the United States for minorities and for African Americans. And we can't forget about the historic $1.5 trillion in tax cuts, which have poured millions of dollars into the pockets of workers through bonuses, pay hikes, and higher take-home pay. The IBD/TIPP Economic Optimism Index stands at 55.1. The average for it is 49.3, and that measures the lifetime average. And this is signaling continued confidence in the strength of the U.S. economy under President Trump. And folks, just a few days ago, to bring it home, the Wall Street Journal reported U.S. consumer confidence has hit a 14-year high. 14-year high. We have stocks at record highs. We have wealth being added to our GDP, jobs being added to the economy. We have the lowest unemployment rates in history. And of course, those tax cuts that allow American citizens to keep more in their pockets. Folks, this hasn't been a terrible presidency as Hillary Clinton would want you to believe. See, Hillary Clinton is still under the illusion that no one likes President Trump. She's under the illusion that there's not one person in our nation that does. Because she's delusional. She's not in reality. She's just like the media itself. She doesn't understand that the American people actually do want President Trump over Hillary Clinton. And folks, we have a lot of people benefiting in our nation because of a presidency of Donald Trump. And we have people in our nation who voted for Hillary Clinton, who never thought that they would ever support President Trump. But because of tax cuts, because of more wealth in the stock market, because of more jobs being added to the economy, because of all these different factors, plus more, there's people who voted for Hillary Clinton, but now say that they support Donald Trump. There's people who supported neither of them, who know now that our economy is greatly benefiting from a businessman at the helm of our nation. Yeah, it was crazy having a guy run as a businessman with no experience in politics running for president. But so far, it's turning out pretty good. So far, while there are a few things that I disagree with, that'll happen with every presidency, folks. So far, it's been majorly and mostly good for our nation, good for the economy, good for unemployment, good for the families, everyday families, blue-collar workers, the middle class, and the lower class. It's all around been a great presidency so far, and Hillary Clinton knows nothing about this issue because she's too busy getting paid billions of dollars, millions of dollars for speeches in foreign nations, in places that already completely agree with her, in her little echo chambers. Folks, she's not in touch with reality, and she knows nothing about what the American people actually want. All right, that's all for today's episode of The Wise Conservative Show. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. I'm your host, Connor Wise. You can find The Wise Conservative Show on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Spreaker.com, iTunes as well. You can also find The Wise Conservative Show on Facebook. Go ahead and like our page there. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in, and make sure to tune in next week for our 100th episode of The Wise Conservative Show. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, God bless.